Okay. Oh, this is the-
Sí, lo que pasa es que leo y luego como que explico. Yo lo hago, yo lo escribo en inglés. Sí, ya lo hago. What is the dynamic? Am I going to be translating? Qué bueno para que vean que la mexicana no les...
like this.
So, but I'm going to be translating for after you for them, from
Yeah,
English to Spanish.
and then you can, I don't know that there's too much need, but there could be. I think it's more interpreting Sonia's and Vela's, you know, information and things. And I probably won't read correctly, you know, all of this stuff.
Porque, por ejemplo, they're going to be talking to the public, or it's going to be
Yeah,
public?
no, they're going
Okay.
to, and then the film, we're going to be changing the images back.
Okay. Yo voy a empezar. Right. Alejandra, si necesito pararlas un poquito, nomás les hago una seña, ¿no? Para si van muy rápido. No voy muy rápido. Sí, no hablen muy rápido. Hagan pausas, ¿no? Sí, para que ella traduzca. Ah, no sé.
Vicky, it might be hot. I don't know. But, yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank you for everyone to come tonight. This has been a 2-year, basically, adventure of trying to put this exhibition together. And we're really lucky. I don't know if I don't see, oh, there he is. Ernesto. Ernesto Esquire was our a major collaborator with the exhibition, as well as the person next to me, Alejandra Platt-Torres. We sort of got together, and Ernesto's end of it was at the very end, where he was actually printing the images for the exhibition. And I really want to thank Ernesto for this. Was extra time on his behalf from his regular job, full-time job of being at Pima Community College. So it's really, is that too loud? I don't know. And so there's several people. Trina Felty, I think she's still over in the gallery. She's my volunteer that has been my sort of guiding light, if you will, to making sure that all of the documents and things came together in a timely manner. We had several people from the new dean, Karen Bryan, who was just here, but she's not feeling well, so she left. And there's several people that are in our community that will be here on Friday. We're doing another event on Friday. Katie and Doug Saunders, and Donna and Frank Whitman, and the Tucson Museum of Art, and the Latin American art patrons from the Tucson Museum of Art, BorderLens Southwest, and Fotógrafas del Norte with Velia, de la Cruz, and then MAPA from the state of Mexico. And to all of our guests this evening, I appreciate you being here. We are being televised, so this is sort of fun to have this happen for Pima. It'll be on a YouTube with Pima after they do their editing and things. We put together a PowerPoint that will give you an insight into the 4 artists that are here, and to represent the basically the three groups of women artists. It was my intention to try to bring together groups of women, because I think they are not always represented in our community and in our society as visual artists. And I know this happens all over the world. And I wanted to put together this show. It was difficult, though. It was difficult to bring together not just artists from Arizona and the Southwest, but from Mexico. And my collaborator next to me here, Alejandra Platt, she was instrumental in bringing different groups together so that we could make this exhibition happen. We're first going to go through Alejandra's work. She's a visual artist from now living in Tucson, originally from Hermosillo, Mexico. Well, I'm gonna let you maybe define that, but that's the way I always understood it. And but she's studied for a long time in putting together her own career in the visual arts. She first did a work-study program in Maine, a photographic workshop, and studied with black and white photography with Tillman Crane at the Rockport, Maine school workshop. She was the winner of 3 Mexican grants with the projects A World Separated by Borders in 2011-12, and Jew Mexico Foundation, you might correct my Spanish in these areas, in the Separated by Borders, and that's, or the Name of God. That's how I first met Alejandra and her work. We have known each other for several years, quite a few years actually, and saw her work, that work at the University of Arizona and the Arizona State Museum, and at a World Separated by Borders. Correct me if I'm wrong on these things, because I'm gonna let you talk about these two. And she's also, let me advance this so that we can get off the, this is one of the images, and I don't know if you can see it on either monitor, but you're welcome to, you want to talk about your work as we go through this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
This is a great philosopher that I always love, this amazing phrase about the planet. His name is Yushchenko, and he says that the borders are scaring the planet. That was my first approach about the borders. I came to Tucson back in 2007 because in Mexico there were no more opportunities for me to finance my projects and exhibits.
That's okay.
Do you want?
You made it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have been coming here since I was 7 years old because it was close to my home, Hermosillo. So for us Mexican people, Sonoran people who came to Arizona is normal. It's a normal coming and go. So I made my decision to live and work here as much as I can. And I began a project called A World Separated by Borders. It was about Sonora and Arizona, migrants crossing the border between Sonora and Arizona, Mexico, and Arizona, Sonora.
Alejandra Platt llegó a Arizona en el 2007,
¿correcto?
2007. Y lo que ella está diciendo es que para la gente de Sonora venir a Arizona es algo natural, que siempre sucede, es de lo más normal del mundo. es lo que está diciendo, y que una de las razones por las que emigró de México hacia Estados Unidos es porque su trabajo en México se había estancado un poco, no tenía muchas oportunidades, y por eso decidió emigrar hacia acá. Y dice que una de las frases que más le ha conmovido siempre es esta que dice que las fronteras son las cicatrices de la tierra.
So for this reason, I'm very grateful to be here, part of the Tucson community, artist community, and because they invite me to have exhibits here. So I met you in 2009 probably,
2009,
and then 2012. So you invite me to be two of the exhibits here in the Pima, in the gallery, and I was very grateful about that. Thank you, David. So these two exhibits that I was involved, we talked, David and I, about bringing more Mexican artists. So the first exhibit was about the 4 Sonoran artists. One of them is here, Najata Navarro, that you are now part of the CCP collection. That's good. And now the next one is the Invisible Borders with 19 Mexican photographers and the BorderLens group, to be together and try to see the borders in an invisible way.
Alejandra Platt siempre se ha sentido bienvenida en la comunidad de Tucson. Dice que encontró aquí lo que estaba buscando, que conoció a David en el 2009, fue tu primera exhibición aquí en la galería, y en el 2012 tuvo otra. Y una de tus primeras ideas fue traer más artistas sonorenses, mexicanos, pero empezando por sonorenses, a Tucson, y que fue cuando invitaste a… ¿Me repites su nombre, por favor?
Najata Navarro.
Al señor Navarro, quien ahora es parte de la colección del Pima Community Center, y estás trabajando en un proyecto para traer 19 fotógrafos mexicanos.
Sí. So since 2014, I've been working in a project called the 5 Elements, and the first 4 elements is about the natural world. It's about air, fire, water, and air. And the 5th element is about the human world. It's about the human with love. So this project about the natural and the human world, that I was trying to create a balance, between human and natural world, and become very difficult for me because first I was working with the human world, and now I have to balance with the natural world. So, it's especially that we're already living in a in a constant climate change crisis. It's difficult to make this balance. So I was thinking myself, how can I tell my story about the 5 elements, the 4 elements with a 5th element? So I decided to do this photograph, in 2 different ways. I use black and white photography with a digital photography, but what I do is I took black and white photography, 120 millimeter, and I scanned the image 40 by 40 inch, and I fuse the color image in those photographs.
You want to go back on
Yes.
En el 2014, Alejandra Platt empezó a trabajar con un proyecto que ella nombró los 5 elementos, de los cuales los 4 elementos se refieren a los elementos de aire, agua, tierra y agua, y ella agrega un 5º elemento que lo llama el trabajo humano o el elemento humano, y dice que este trabajo ha sido muy difícil de realizar para ella, en cómo balancear los 4 elementos naturales con el 5º elemento humano, Entonces, para ello decidió, y sobre todo en el marco del cambio climático, cómo integrarlo a este proyecto, y entonces decidió utilizar elementos de fotografía en blanco y negro, escaneándolas con imágenes de color a 40 por 40.
So when I did this work, when I taking these photos, I began first with a natural world, taking landscapes, and some of them are animals and plants. So where is the fifth element? And I didn't find the fifth element. And when I was working with this work, I find the fifth element. And the fifth element is a photographer. It's about love, human. So how can I incorporate the fifth element to this image? So I decided the photographer has to be the fifth element.
Alejandra comenta que mientras estaba trabajando con este proyecto, tomaba fotos de paisajes, de animales, de plantas, y que un día se preguntó cuál era el quinto elemento, y decidió que ese quinto elemento era el fotógrafo. Y el fotógrafo se convierte entonces en el elemento humano y en su trabajo con amor. ¿Dijiste amor?
Sí.
Ajá, perdón. Entonces se convierte en un trabajo que hace el quinto elemento con amor.
So do you want to go to
Yes,
another?
can we talk about that? Yes. Okay, this photo is about the border.
Este trabajo que están viendo ahora es la frontera.
I have to see it, okay? Okay, this is about, the black and white is Tijuana.
Lo blanco y negro es Tijuana.
Tijuana. They called it a Friendship Park Brotherhood mural in Tijuana, Baja California. I was here because in this border, there is more freedom than the one from Arizona and Sonora. People from all over the world came here for many reasons. And the color photo, the other part, you know, the other half of the wall, I was in Berlin at the Wall Memorial, Germany, at the Wall Memorial, they call it like that. So when I was in Berlin, in Leipzig, I felt the loneliness about what people live in the past when they have these borders. There was a wall, and this wall continues in their minds. They suffer so much between war and wall. I was there to visit a friend of mine and took some of the photos, part of these photos. And
Esta fotografía, la parte en blanco y negro es Tijuana, la parte en color es Berlín, y esta lo tomó cuando estabas en Alemania, y dice que se llama, durante las celebraciones del memorial de la pared, y que ella trata de representar cómo la gente viene a estos lugares, como las fronteras, por muchas razones, pero entre otras también reflejan el sufrimiento.
okay, so the next one. Okay, this is, I call this photo, let's see. The gray female whale. And the black and white photo is from Campo Salado at the Golfo de Santa Clara in Sonora, Mexico. And the photo of the gray whale was taken at Laguna Ojo de Liebre in Guerrero Negro in Baja California Sur in 2017. I was looking, when I was taking the photo of the female gray, I tried to look her eyes. It's difficult to do that. So I think I did it with this photo. This whale is a calf, you know, a small whale. And one of my friends here was with me. Hi, we always work together and travel together. So this was the photo.
Esta fotografía, la parte en blanco y negro, que están viendo ahí es el Golfo de Santa Clara, en Sonora, México, y la parte en colores es en Baja California Sur. Y Alejandra, ella quería encontrar el ojo de la ballena para tomar la foto, que se estuvieran mirando mutuamente. Aquí está uno de sus amigos que la acompañó en la expedición y dice que fue difícil, pero que al final de cuentas pues la foto quedó.
This one is the sea coyote. The black and white photo was taken at Ciénega al Campo Salado, the Gulf of Santa Clara in Sonora in 2017. And the photo of the coyote was taken at the Laguna Ojo de Liebre in Guerrero Negro in Baja California Sur, Mexico. The coyotes who live on the sea, they are small because they eat fish. So they are small and very friendly.
Aquí la fotografía en blanco y negro fue tomada en el Golfo de Santa Clara, en la Ciénaga del Campo Salado, y el coyote fue tomado en la Laguna Ojo de Liebre, en Guerrero Negro, en Baja California Sur. Alejandra comenta que los coyotes que viven cerca de la playa son más pequeños de tamaño porque solamente comen peces y que son muy amigables. ¿Eso dijiste?
So
Oh,
thank you.
sí, no, sí, no.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So what we're doing tonight is not only doing a panel, but we're with questions, but we're introducing you to the two visiting artists and to Vicky Westover, who's also on this group representing BorderLens Southwest. I would like to introduce Sonia Madrigal, and she lives in the state of Mexico, and her work explores different visual narratives that reflect personal and collective around the body, violence, and territory, while focusing mainly on the east of the state of Mexico. She obtained a degree in computer science at UNAM. She attended the photographic production seminar in 2016 of the Center of De La Imagine under the supervision of Veronica Gerber. And I'm reading this, so you'll have to forgive me here. With also from Faro de Oriente, and Faro, with the photographer Mark Powell. She is part of the national system of curators of art of the FONICA since 2020. Sonia has participated in exhibitions in Mexico, Chile, Brazil, Peru, Argentina, Uruguay, France, Italy, Canada, Spain, and obviously the United States, and published her work in media such as Harper's Magazine in 2020 and Aperture Magazine in 2019, and the Daily Britain, The Guardian in 2017. Sonia, I would like for you, if you will, elaborate on that, and you can see that I've got that up there, so I was sort of reading the things, but would you talk about this body of work that I think is what attracted me to your work when Alejandra and I were going through portfolios, how strong this concept is of moving individuals throughout the city of Mexico City. You mentioned this afternoon that you too live outside of Mexico, 2 hours outside, and go back and forth to obtain your, your images and things. So I assume that's what this is about, Tiempos Muertos. Yeah, would you talk to us about those images, and I will just progress through the slides when you ask me to.
Okay.
Yeah.
come up here if you don't mind?
Pardon?
Dijo que le gustaría que elaboraras un poquito más sobre el cuerpo de tu trabajo y sobre todo lo que tiene que ver con lo difícil o la logística tremenda que tiene
La movilidad.
transportación, la movilidad en ciudades como la Ciudad de México. Sí. Que incluso hasta te habías hablado con ellos que tú tienes que hacer 2 horas, ¿no? Entonces me gustaría que platicaras un poco más de eso.
Claro.
Thank you.
Hola, buenas noches.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Muchas gracias por estar aquí acompañándonos. Para mí es muy importante estar hoy hablando no solamente de mi trabajo, ¿no?, sino estar reunida con fotógrafas de México, pero también de este otro lado de la frontera.
It's for me very important to be here this afternoon, especially to have the opportunity to be together with photographers, with women photographers, not only from this side of the border, but also from Mexico.
Yo voy a hablar de un proyecto que se llama Tiempos Muertos.
I'm going to talk about a project that I have named Dead Times.
Y tiene que ver también con fronteras, pero quizás son estas fronteras en el país, ¿no?, dentro del país, no solo la frontera norte ni la frontera sur, sino intermedias.
This work also has to do with borders, but not borders between countries. This work also has to do with the borders that exist between or inside the countries, inside the communities.
Como mencionaba David, en mi trabajo abordo temas que tienen que ver con situaciones que acontecen en mi ciudad. Es muy importante para mí hablar desde dentro de la ciudad donde vivo, de situaciones que tienen que ver con la cotidianidad.
My work my work talks about things that happen in my city, things that happen between my city, and they have to do and they have a big impact with my community.
Por lo general vemos proyectos abordados desde fuera, ¿no?, un ojo externo que va a abordar un tema de alguna ciudad, puede ser de cerca, en el mismo país o algún otro país. Para mí es muy importante hablar desde dentro porque muchas veces, no solo por ser mujeres, se invisibiliza la voz, sino también ciertos territorios no tienen tanta potencia la voz de narrar sus historias.
Most of the time, generally, we talk about things looking from outside. What I would like to do is talk about things from inside, because it's important to have that voice, not only as a woman, but also because certain communities inside a city don't have a voice. They become like invisible. So that's what I think is important, to talk not from outside, but from inside of the city.
Cuando yo comencé a estudiar, yo vivo en Ciudad Neza, que es una ciudad muy cercana a la Ciudad de México, pero la universidad estaba a 2 horas de donde yo vivo, que no es exclusivo de mi ciudad, sino esto se replica en todo el mundo. Hacía 2 horas de ida y 2 horas de regreso.
When I was a college student, she's graduating from one of the most important Latin American universities, which is Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. She lives in the outskirts of Mexico City, which is Ciudad Nezahualcóyotl, Ciudad Neza, and she used to take public transportation 2 hours to go to the university campus and 2 hours to come back home every day.
Entonces me di cuenta de que en este tiempo, que era para mi tiempo muerto, puedes comer, puedes dormir, puedes leer, puedes estudiar, pero también llega el momento en el que el cansancio y el hastío se hacen evidentes.
And this is a phenomenon that happens in all the big cities. And during this time of commuting, I realized that there's a lot of what she calls dead time. And in this time, you can eat, you can study, you can read, you can sleep. but she also makes the connotation that she start to feel worn out by the situation because you can feel very tired or bored with the situation.
Y con el tiempo me di cuenta de que no toda la gente sabe lo que sucede. No todos saben que hacemos estos trayectos. Y es importante como contar esto que pasa, porque no solamente tiene que ver con mi propia experiencia, sino de ahí se toman decisiones en cuanto a la cuestión urbana, en cuanto al desarrollo educativo, laboral. Es decir, a veces esas experiencias son silenciadas, no se cuenta, porque no todas las personas saben que sucede eso, aunque vivan ahí mismo.
Not everybody in the city knows what's going on. This is something that happens in the city, but it gets no voice. So the impact of this commute has to do with taking better decisions about educational programs, work programs, or even what would make it more effective to go to your work. But these voices, she says, nobody, they don't have enough public because it's something that, there is things that happens like every day, they don't have a voice because not all the persons put attention to this.
Y por eso comencé a documentar. A partir de la fotografía empecé a hacer estos mismos trayectos, o sea, mis trayectos los empecé a documentar y sobre todo también la experiencia de ser mujer dentro del transporte público, por la violencia que se vive en estos espacios, porque no es lo mismo ocupar el espacio siendo mujer que siendo hombre. Las experiencias aún más se dejan de mencionar. Entonces, para mí era muy importante hablar de mi propia experiencia. Creo que no es darle la voz sino simplemente contar mi experiencia y que esa experiencia se una a la voz de otras mujeres.
That's why I start making documents, or that's why I start to taking photographs about my own commute. That's why I start to try to put this in my perspective as not only as a person that takes the public transportation, but also as a woman. Because as a woman, the experience of taking the public transportation, and I'm going to add, in a city like Mexico City, is not the same for a man than for a woman, because the level of awareness or the violence around a woman using the public transportation is a total different experience that could be for a man. So that's why she tried to is doing this document not only to talk about in general, but she wants to make it more personal and talking about her own experience in the public transportation in Mexico City.
Y unir mi experiencia con la experiencia de otras personas, principalmente mujeres.
And put her experience along with the experience of another people, especially women.
También me parece importante mencionar que a partir de los proyectos que yo desarrollo de manera individual, también hay una necesidad de hacer colectividad con las mujeres fotógrafas.
And I think that not only it's important to make my own projects as a women photographer, but I think it's a necessity to make this with other women photographers, to make this like a collective experience for women photographers in the same situation.
Principalmente porque a las mujeres no se nos ha dado la oportunidad de narrar nuestras propias historias. Aunque se haga, muchas veces son borradas de la historia el trabajo de mujeres fotógrafas que han hecho labor desde hace muchos años.
Especially because the women photography work most of the times gets ignored, and even though is something that is there and has been done before me, a lot of times it just gets kind of a push away or erase.
Por eso también me parece importante estar ahora compartiendo el espacio con BorderLens, con Fotógrafas del Norte.
That's what I feel very important, to be sharing this space with women photographers from BorderLens and mujeres fotógrafas.
Yo tengo un proyecto, a partir también de esto, justo el proyecto de Fotógrafas en el MAPA, trata de que nos pongamos en el mapa, literalmente utilizando Google Maps, haciendo un sondeo de fotógrafas de todo el mundo que puedan ser ubicadas en un mapa, como una especie de directorio, donde se pueden registrar para empezar a mapearnos.
That's what I have this project. The name of the project is Fotógrafas en el Mapa, that literally would be translated like women photographed in the map. So using Google Maps, you can localize women photographers around the world. So her idea is to literally put the women on the map.
Y que este proyecto se pueda unir con otros proyectos.
And that this project can come together with another projects of women photographers in the world.
Pues gracias, es todo.
Thank you very much.
Sonia, let me grab this again. Sonia had several portfolios that I looked at and focused on the untitled works, but the dead. I can't even remember it now. Sorry. And then this one here is one of another project that you worked on, Albans, in 2018. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Este proyecto es sobre un muro de contención, un distribuidor vial que está en el Estado de México también, pero que no tiene acceso peatonal para que la gente pueda cruzar.
This one is about, isn't what we call a freeway? Or what we call a freeway in Mexico City?
Estado de México.
In the not Mexico City, Estado de Mexico, and what you can see here is the division, you know, these little walls, the concrete walls that they are between the north and south, and the southbound or the northbound. And the problem here, what she's saying, is that there's no another bridge or another place with the people or the people that can walk across this freeway.
El problema es que justo pienso que las historias precisamente de lo cotidiano que nos sucede a la gente del Estado de México y de muchas otras ciudades es que no, al tomar decisiones desde el gobierno, decisiones estratégicas para el desarrollo de las ciudades, no se camina la experiencia diaria de la gente.
So what you can see here is what she said is you can see in this image that when the governments or the people that plans these type of freeways or projects don't even think about the experience of the people that walks. What she's saying is that the government doesn't take decision for people that walks, you know, so you can see here.
Y entonces alguien puso el muro de Trump, puro avance, y me hizo mucho sentido. Estas son las fronteras de las que les hablo.
So somebody put here this concrete wall between the northbound and the southbound, and for me, seeing this person walking over, it makes a lot of sense because this is the border inside the city that I was talking to you.
So you also are working on a new portfolio, I think you mentioned, and this is one of the images that you sent me.
Es de un proyecto que se llama Mujeres desde la Periferia y justo habla del derecho de las mujeres a ocupar el espacio público, caminar o simplemente caminar o, como yo, estar haciendo fotografía o estar creando o no estar haciendo nada. de hablar sobre el derecho de transitar libremente. Mujeres desde la periferia.
The project that she's doing with this series of photographies is where we can say women in the city limits. You know, the translation periferias, like being between the city. And what she says, what she wants to show with this project is to put the women in the map of this, and just being in the city, and the right of the women to be in a public space doing something like herself, taking photographs or not doing anything at all, but the right to be in a space, in a city, just being there.
Y no olvidemos que desgraciadamente vivo en uno de los países con mayor número de casos de feminicidio y mi trabajo se atraviesa por el hecho de ser mujer, el hecho del territorio, porque vivo a su vez en el Estado de México, que es otro de los estados con mayor número de casos de feminicidio. Entonces, justo, ¿no?, como mi trabajo atraviesa todo esto y por eso me es necesario hablar de todos estos temas.
Unfortunately, I live in a country that has one of the most highest levels of women being killed. Feminicide. And unfortunately, I also live in a state, the Estado de Mexico, that also has high number of feminicide. So my work crosses through these two lines. That's why it's very important for me to talk about women in doing this line, you know, between them.
Hablar de las experiencias de las mujeres.
That's what I want to talk about, the experience of the women just being in a city, like myself, taking photographs.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next, actually, we're going to view Vicky. The reason I wanted to do this is because I wanted to bring in how I feel, anyway, that the border is somewhat invisible with the concepts like what Sonia and Velia will talk to you about, and what Vicky's going to bring to the table here in the conversation with the BorderLens group, which is a young group of women that have just recently got together. And it's really an honor to have them here in Tucson, because as far as I know, I don't know that there's been a group of women that have band together to exhibit their work. I don't normally do group exhibits of different groups in town, but I felt like these exhibits, and with the Fotógrafas de Norte, and which Velia will talk about, and BorderLens Southwest and MAPA from the state of Mexico, was very important to bring awareness of the different types of things that's going on, and the beauty that is happening. As you can read from here, Vicky was born and raised in Washington, D.C. She moved to Baltimore and for 20 years, and in 2003 moved to Tucson. And I met you, I think, not too long after that with the Hanson Film Festival. Vicky was very much involved from 2004 and 2020 at the University of Arizona, and I think some of you probably have gone to those films. I know my wife Julia and I were frequent visitors to it, and that's how I got to know Vicky. And when this opportunity came up for doing this exhibition, Alejandra and I immediately, Alejandra was actually a member at that time, I think, of the BorderLens Southwest. So, but I would like for Vicky to talk about her work.
Thank you. Can Can everyone hear me? I have a little bit of a scratchy throat today. Sorry, it's not COVID. But before I talk a little bit about my work, I just want to say on behalf of BorderLens Collective, I'd like to thank Alejandra Platt and David Andres for putting this exhibit together and for inviting us to be part of it. And a big thank you goes to BorderLens member Marcia Lambert for serving as the liaison and coordinator for our group for this exhibit. Raise your hand, Marcia. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the Tucson Museum of Art for supporting our collective by providing us with educational meeting space. And also I'd like to thank MOCA for the Night Bloom grant I received to support the activities of the collective, and our participation in this exhibit is one of the successful outcomes of that grant. There are a number of collective members in the room today. We have over 30 members. We're growing pretty quickly. And I invite anybody in the room who is a photographer who identifies as female to join us. Everybody in the collective who's here, they weren't all in the exhibit, but if you're in the collective, can you raise your hand? There you go. It's a very diverse group that ranges in age from 30s to 70s. And we formed the collective for both an outward and an inward reason. The outward reason is because there's strength in numbers to be seen and to be heard. There are a number of people in the exhibit across the way that have never had their work shown in a gallery before, and that probably would not be possible if they weren't part of a collective. The inward reason is because there's real joy in celebrating the creative energy of other people, and I think that it gives inspires our own creative impulses when we celebrate the work of other people. So that's sort of why we started it, and as David said, we're still pretty young. I actually forget, it's maybe only over a year old or something like that, and we're still sort of figuring out how we want to be as a collective and what our goals are. But one of the goals that was stated, because originally Alejandra was part of the group, and we saw that as a real opportunity to have a connection to sister collectives in Mexico. So we do intend to continue to do some sort of cross-border collaborations and relationships. So wonderful to meet you all today.
Dice que para ella es muy importante que esta relación crezca con Fotógrafas de México, entonces les da la bienvenida y están invitadas.
So what David was referring to is Tucson Cine Mexico, which maybe some of you attended. So besides being a photographer, I've been a film programmer for over 30 years, and primarily program Mexican cinema. We have a current series called, I have to do a plug, because if you're here, perhaps you're interested in Mexican culture, but we do have an ongoing series now called Cinema Tucson, which and we show monthly films at the Fox Theater, classic and contemporary Mexican cinema, with as many filmmakers as we can bring up as we can. Our next screening is in November, and we have the filmmaker coming. You can look us up for that.
Do you want to talk about these,
yeah, I'm going to talk about those. I'm going to talk about those pieces that are in the show. So I had the privilege of being able to study photography in the 70s at the Maryland Institute College of Art. And after I graduated, the majority of my work actually was what you would kind of consider traditional documentary, as you might label those two pieces. These two pieces are kind of a return to that earlier work. The other work that I brought today to show you are just works in progress of a very different nature. But I just want to tell you a little bit about how these two pieces came about. They're part of a much larger series of maybe over 100 photographs of construction workers.
Esta serie es solamente una parte de un trabajo de un cuerpo muy grande de casi 100 fotografías sobre trabajadores de la construcción.
And when I was working at the university, they were building a large building behind the office building where my office was in. And in the mornings, as I would come to work, those construction workers were taking their lunch break, and I would encounter them literally on my walk, and then as I left the office in the evening, they too were leaving for the day, and I would encounter them on my walk back to the parking lot.
Cuando estaba trabajando en la universidad siempre había un proyecto de construcción detrás de su oficina, entonces siempre se los encontraba en la mañana cuando iba y luego en la tarde cuando regresaba se cruzaban los caminos.
And oddly, I've always had a visual attraction to construction and to construction workers.
Y siempre tuve una atracción visual hacia la construcción y hacia los trabajadores de la construcción.
I don't know why, but I think it's something to do with the theatricality of it. To me, they always look like they are in costume and it's part of a stage play, especially if you see construction at night, which I have, tried to photograph as well.
No sé si tiene que ver con la situación teatral, porque parece como que siempre están en una obra de teatro, desde los uniformes hacia lo que está pasando, especialmente si lo ves a la noche. Eso siempre le llamó la atención.
So, as I was walking to and fro, I would ask these construction workers, they were women too, men and women, if I could take their picture. And I think because we are such a picture-taking society, none of them thought that was an odd request, and they all were absolutely happy to let me do that.
Entonces, siempre que me los encontraba, hombres y mujeres que trabajan en la construcción, yo les pedía permiso para tomarles una foto, y creo que el hecho de que vivimos en una sociedad que está tan acostumbrada a tomar fotos que ninguno de ellos me dijo nunca que no.
Maybe in that whole year there might have just been one person. It was a little bit difficult to navigate. I didn't want to interfere with their work, but what I wanted to say about these images are that you may label them as street photography or documentary portraits or something, but I really want to share that the making of these images was a very collaborative process. These men here posed themselves, chose their facial expression, and I consider it very much. Again, it's almost more akin to theater to me than it is to street photography. As a matter of fact, this one with this tough-looking guy. Right after this image, I have another image of him laughing, hilarious, because he was putting this on, he was posing, and he loved the joke of it all. So at one point, I was thinking of sort of juxtaposing the two images so you can see how that it is in fact staged, but David selected this other image of father and son together.
En esta fotografía, aunque se pudiera mostrar como una fotografía documental, yo creo que es algo más bien teatral, porque los personajes de estas fotografías, estas personas posaron para ella, incluso hicieron sus propias muecas, ellos escogieron lo que querían mostrar. Incluso dice que David escogió esta fotografía, pero que inmediatamente después de esta, luego este hombre se está riendo, ¿no? en todo otro. Entonces ella no lo considera como algo documental, sino más bien todo lo que hay de teatral detrás de su fotografía. Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah, and all of that happens within less than 60 seconds. These images were taken with an iPhone. Recently, all my work is with an iPhone. What happened was that when I came to Tucson 20 years ago, I actually stopped my photography practice because I was heavily involved in film programming, and I also am a filmmaker. And most of my friends in Tucson and work acquaintances didn't even know that I was a photographer. I missed it dearly, so I started taking it up again a few years ago. And the jump from working with film and working in the darkroom and printing gelatin silver prints to digital was actually a very traumatic and hard experience for me. I didn't like it when I got a digital camera. I didn't like it, and I sort of mourned the photographic process. But then one day I just started taking pictures with my iPhone, and I fell back in love with the process of making pictures, and I decided it didn't matter what the camera was. So what I'm interested in now is seeing what I can do with an iPhone. I actually work best if I have very simple materials, and I really like limitations, and I like to see how far I can push it. So,
Estas fotografías fueron tomadas con un iPhone cuando yo llegué a Tucson hace 20 años y muchos de mis amigos no sabían que yo era fotógrafa. Siempre me habían ubicado haciendo filmes, como haciendo filmes. Entonces volví a retomar la fotografía y siempre yo había sido educada en esto de imprimir en un cuarto oscuro y todo el proceso de la fotografía. Entonces retomar el área de la fotografía en la cámara digital fue muy traumático porque no me gustó. Entonces hasta que empecé a tomar fotos con el iPhone, ya eso sí me gustó y entonces estas fotografías están creadas con imágenes digitales.
it's not even a very good iPhone. But anyway, so I don't know how to use Photoshop. Everything I do in the phone. So the rest of the work that you're going to see, I just brought you a few images. The reason I say they're works in progress is because they haven't been printed yet. I may manipulate them further. I don't really know. So one of the ways in which I've been working with the iPhone is making these collages. So these are two that are part of a larger series. I'm very interested in the genre of sort of post-apocalyptic and film and sort of dystopian stories and things, and so that's what I'm playing with here, is in creating these images. I hope sort of convey that.
Estas fotografías están tomadas con el iPhone y lo que ella hace es imprimir estos collage. Entonces es toda una serie y le está muy interesada en los temas distópicos y por eso estas imágenes.
So the other thing I've been photographing a lot is nature and botanical images, and especially during COVID. That was something, I could go out and do. And again, these are just made in the iPhone, not printed yet, so I don't know if that's the finished look.
Estas que están viendo aquí, porque también he hecho muchas fotos de naturaleza, también están tomadas en el iPhone, pero no están todavía impresas, entonces no sé si este va a ser el resultado final.
So I'm just interested in pushing the medium and seeing what I can do with it. I have a painter friend who tells me that my photographic images seem more like paintings than they do photographs, and it's true. I am very interested in the formal elements of painting. So these are some experiments along that line. I went through a brown period. I have thousands of images that are now brown. There was just something about the quality of that brown I really liked. Maybe it reminds me of etching or something. Maybe that's what I was getting at. I'm not sure.
Estas son imágenes digitales y tiene un amigo, a ella lo que le gusta es como forzar o irse más allá de los límites de lo que es formalmente en la media, y dice que tiene un amigo pintor que le dijo que estas fotografías más bien parecen pinturas, y dice que ella está muy interesada en los elementos formales de la pintura, y esto es lo que ella le llama su periodo café, porque usaba mucho el sepia.
And these are the last two. So I do spend a lot of time with still lifes. And basically, this vase here, this green vase, I have photographed this green vase many times, and I'm sure that I will continue to photograph this green vase many times. I have many different versions of an image of this green vase. I love this green vase. and I want you to love it too. So when I make these kinds of images, what I think I'm doing is I'm in awe of something I see, and then I want you to see it. So I want you to like the shape of that vase. I want you to see the line of that vase. I want you to see the complementary color composition and enjoy that. I want you to enjoy the lines, the texture, and then in the image over here, on the other side, yet another vase that I photograph frequently. Again, you know, when I saw the light hit that vase, it was magic for me, and I'm trying to convey that to you. So I just want you to enjoy, again, the shape of the vase, the line of the vase. Again, it's another complementary color composition. It's, you know, the light is hitting it in a certain way. If you feel something, that would be great. But I think you can see why some of this work feels more like painting than it does, I think, like my very early work, which was very traditional documentary work.
Lo que están viendo aquí es naturaleza muerta, o still lifes, y ella dice que esta vasija verde, por ejemplo, la ha fotografiado muchas veces y la va a seguir fotografiando muchas veces, porque cuando ella ve algo quiere que tú veas lo que ella está viendo, el color, la línea, la textura, cómo la luz se refleja. Y dice, por ejemplo, yo amo esta vasija verde y quiero que ustedes también amen esta vasija verde, entonces la voy a fotografiar muchas veces hasta que todo esto suceda. Entonces, en la otra fotografía también le encanta el juego de la luz, y otra vez ella quiere que tú veas lo que ella ve, cómo es la textura, la línea, la forma de los dos jarrones. Y dice, lo que quiere es transmitirte eso, que tú también lo veas. Entonces, por eso dice que puedes ver que tal vez este trabajo es más como una pintura que como una fotografía, que por eso entiende esa comparación que su amigo hizo.
And that's what I brought this evening, and happy to later answer questions.
Y es todo lo que trajo esta tarde, y con gusto recibir preguntas.
So next is Velia de la Cruz, a photographer and founder and manager of the Fotógrafas del Norte and a member of the Libro-American Collective. She has a bachelor's degree in communication science with a concentration in advertising by the Autonomous University of Nuevo León. Velia and Alejandra and I got together on a Zoom meeting in 2020, I think in January of there, when Alejandra and I sort of was trying to plot this exhibition together. And Alejandra introduced me to Velia, which really sort of catalyzed, I think, the entire exhibition together because of her forming this group of Fotógrafas del Norte. And there are some questions that I'd like to ask about how you pulled all of these women from every border state together, you know, and how you found them, I guess, is one of the questions that I have.
Hola, buenas noches. Primero quiero agradecer muchísimo la invitación de David para esta exhibición.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to say thank you all for being here, and especially David, thank you so much for the invitation.
Y la ayuda de Alejandra Platt y la colaboración que ahora hacemos con BorderLens y Fotógrafas en el MAPA.
Also, Alejandra Platt, thank you very much, and the collaboration that we have now with BorderLens, and also Fotógrafas en el MAPA.
Bueno, realmente el trabajo de Fotógrafas del Norte empieza un poquito antes de la pandemia, porque había para mí en lo personal una necesidad de conocer a más fotógrafas mujeres que estaban trabajando primero en los medios de comunicación. Yo soy periodista y no encontraba a mi alrededor muchas mujeres que estuvieran en el circuito fotográfico, al menos en el periodístico, en el lugar donde yo estaba.
Fotógrafas del Norte starts just before the pandemic in 2020, and it was created by this necessity that I have to know more women doing photography or doing the other media things, because I just couldn't see it around me. So I have this necessity to bring a group of women in this media. I'm a reporter, so for me it's very important to have this kind of a connection with all these women doing the same.
Entonces, también yo tenía una necesidad personal de conocer las mujeres que estaban haciendo fotografía en el lugar de donde yo había nacido, que es en Chihuahua, pero yo no vivo ahí hace 20 años, entonces…
I also have the necessity of get together or get to know women that were doing photography in the place where I was born, which is Chihuahua, Parral, Chihuahua, and I haven't lived in Parral, Chihuahua for 20 years now, but I have this necessity to connect with them.
Entonces encontré que había una necesidad no solamente mía, sino que realmente todas las fotógrafas que iba conociendo teníamos la misma curiosidad y no sabíamos quiénes estaban haciendo qué y en qué lugar. Entonces nos dimos cuenta que faltaba visibilidad para el trabajo de las mujeres fotógrafas en el área norte de México y el sur de Estados Unidos.
I realized that it was not only my necessity to know women in the photography, but every women that I was connecting with, I find that they also have the same necessity that I was having, that I have, and that because it's not really a visibility of what the women are doing in photography, at least in the north of Mexico and the south of the United States.
Entonces, mi siguiente paso fue crear una cuenta de Instagram en donde empecé a publicar primero el trabajo de fotógrafas que ya conocía y fui preguntando una a una a quién conocían ellas y a quién me podían recomendar para publicar su trabajo.
So I did an Instagram account when I start to connect with these women, and I start to put the work of these women, and I start to ask, one by one, if they can recommend or bring somebody else to the Instagram group that we can post their work there.
Hasta ahorita la cuenta ha publicado alrededor de 170 perfiles de fotógrafas de diferentes generaciones y que tocan diferentes temas, no solamente fotoperiodísticos, sino documentales, de retrato, mujeres que abordan también temas de violencia desde otro punto de vista, no solamente el periodístico.
Till today, we have published 170 women, or we have brought to the account 170 women, and we have published their work, and you can find there a variety of work from violence against women, or journalists, or even landscapes, or a variety of themes.
Había como ya lo mencionaba, una necesidad, pero también había un vacío en el sentido de que no nos conocíamos entre nosotras. Estando en el mismo lugar, pues las distancias en los estados del norte pues sí son un poco difíciles, es difícil la comunicación, y creo que la pandemia nos ayudó a encontrar esa comunicación a través de las charlas en internet, de estar más tiempo en las redes y tener ese tiempo de comunicarnos entre nosotras y platicar qué es lo que sentíamos que faltaba.
And this Instagram account that she also has women from several different generations. So that's also important. She says that she found that there was this big necessity, this emptiness to find to each other. And at the same time, the pandemic brought this solution, because we spend more time being more media savvy and spending more time in the computers. So she says that the connecting through the internet has been very important for the project, because especially, the distance between the cities and the states of the north of Mexico is quite big.
Nos dimos cuenta que había que buscar descentralizar el trabajo que se estaba haciendo, porque la mayoría de los proyectos que son más vistos, que son becados o a que se les da más impulso, generalmente están en el centro del país, ¿no? Entonces, justo lo que decía también Sonia, había estas mismas periferias en el sentido de que también en los nortes, en el norte hay otras periferias en ese mismo lugar, ¿no? O sea, hay diferentes, digamos, exclusiones, ¿no? No solamente en el centro, que tiene sus propias periferias, pero había poca participación en el circuito fotográfico de mujeres que ya tenían un trabajo importante.
She is, what I was trying to do is to bring this attention from which is more popular from the center states of Mexico to the north. Because I think there is more attention to what happens in the center of Mexico, cities like Mexico City, Estado de Mexico. However, like I'm looking just like Sonia is looking for, is to find these borders between us, this kind of exclusion, periferias or rings of exclusions that can exist between the center of Mexico and the north of Mexico. And she found out that a lot of work that was done by photographers, by women photographers in the north of Mexico, nobody was aware of.
Yeah.
Sí. Y en el norte también hay muchas mujeres que hacen trabajos que tienen que ver sobre la violencia hacia la mujer, sobre los feminicidios, sobre el narcotráfico, trabajos de largo aliento, que no son los trabajos que generalmente se ven en los periódicos, que generalmente están contratando más hombres que mujeres. Entonces, creo que era importante también voltear a ver el trabajo valiente y importante de fotógrafas que tienen una carrera un poco ya más larga también, pero que esas mismas mujeres fotógrafas pudieran acompañar a fotógrafas emergentes.
In the north of Mexico, she found that the north of Mexico is a lot of journalists or photographers, women journalists and women photographers. They're doing a lot of works in themes with like feminicide and narco traffic, violence in general, but they are not being hired by the newspapers. Like in the newspaper, you find more men photographers than women photographers. So she found that it was very important to bring this very valuable and brave work of women photographers to the media. And at the same time, use the experience of women that have been doing this for a long time to kind of bring these new generations of very brave women that are doing this, photojournalists, we can say like that, these photojournalists to the attention of the main media.
Yeah.
Sí.
So, Velia, out of the group that we, that Alejandra and I looked at, we narrowed it down from, I think we looked at whether it was a combination of many portfolios within one individual artist, but up to 68 different portfolios, and we narrowed it down to basically 18, and then I saw Sonia's work and was very interested in bringing in that aspect from the central part of Mexico. And I was curious because when my wife and I went to Chihuahua in June of this past summer, we met 8 of those women. And they, gave us a sort of a preview of their work and things, as well as I noticed that some of them are doing books, some of them are professionals in other fields, and I think what you're doing is bringing the light to women that would never have maybe had a profession in the field of photography, but it's my hope that maybe getting their work in the gallery here as well, sorry. You know, it's just that's what I was searching for making this exhibition happen. And I really appreciate all that you've done to make this, you know, the women photographers happen in northern Mexico. Sorry.
That's what I said since the beginning. This is not a translation. This is an interpretation.
You can make it brief.
Okay. Dice David que de ese grupo que encontró en lo que este es hecho pudo reducir de 68 a 18 portafolios que son muy valiosos y que junto con tu trabajo en la Ciudad de México ha podido encontrar este grupo bien nutrido de mujeres que están haciendo cosas muy valiosas. Entonces dice que tanto tú en el norte como tú, Sonia, en el centro están trayendo al ojo de la gente todo este trabajo de mujeres que de otra manera se quedaría perdido. Dice que fue a Chihuahua este verano con su esposa y tuvo la oportunidad de platicar y de conocer a 8 de estas mujeres y que se quedó muy gratamente sorprendido porque se dio cuenta que estas mujeres nunca hubieran tenido, unas están haciendo ya libros, otras están haciendo exhibiciones, otras están volviéndose más profesionales, y él cree que sin el apoyo y el trabajo y lo que tú has hecho para estas mujeres en este medio, nunca hubieran sido conocidas, nunca hubieran tenido la oportunidad de poner su trabajo ahí a la vista de los demás. Entonces dice que mujeres que tenían otra profesión incluso han podido volverse más profesionales, y que este es el propósito de esta exhibición a las que ustedes han sido invitadas para traerlas acá y esperar que con el tiempo Alejandra y David se coordinen para poder hacer de esto un grupo más sólido, y dice que te agradece muchísimo, les agradece a ambas el trabajo arduo que están haciendo para poder traer esto, porque sin ustedes no hubiera sido posible. Y un aplauso.
Pues nosotras también estamos muy agradecidas porque para nosotros es muy importante justo lo que mencionaban, que no solamente las mujeres que ya tienen un trabajo, digamos, o una carrera larga o un currículum grande o un currículum conocido, sino que también las mujeres que están empezando y que muchas tienen un muy buen trabajo, aunque sea en sus inicios, puedan tener la oportunidad de exhibir, de tener esta experiencia junto a otras fotógrafas que puedan darles consejos, y también la importancia de nosotros encontrar nuestras propias referencias en mujeres que están a nuestro alrededor, y también ver la fotografía de una manera que no sea solamente lo que estéticamente siempre se espera de una fotografía, sino que hay muchas otras formas de retratar, de hacer fotografía que no necesariamente es la que siempre pudiera ser la que cumple con las reglas o la que siempre se espera ver de una fotografía profesional, ¿no? Entonces creo que hay una nueva generación que también está buscando su propio lenguaje, entonces aquí está como abierto a eso, ¿no?
They also feel really honored and happy and appreciate the invitation, because it's very important that not only the women that have been working many years in this field and they already have a career and a reconocimiento, prestigio, but she says it's very important to find this new generation of women that are trying to get a name, to make a career in photography, and she says this is what we need, these connections, these networks, and so it's very important that your work and Alejandra to bring over here to have this experience, to connect with other organizations, to see that there is a lot of things to learn, and even to help each other as a network, as an artist, because she says, you know, and especially these young generations can see that you can do whatever you have to express in photography, and not what is traditional or what we expect from the regular photography, what the people will expect, but to find your own voice in your work as an artist and as a photographer.
Y otra cosa que es muy importante y que me encanta estar aquí con BorderLens y o sea, estar aquí al lado de Vicky, es que Fotógrafas del Norte, parte de su visión es hacer esta conexión entre las mujeres que están en la frontera de Estados Unidos con México, las que viven al sur y las que están relacionadas con esta área del norte, porque bueno, muchas de las fotógrafas son binacionales o tienen esta dinámica de cruzar diario a trabajar o su familia o sus trabajos están en este otro lado de Estados Unidos. Entonces creo que esa experiencia no podríamos como separarla y creo que no sería como lo ideal separar esta frontera o volver a dividir o poner un muro más en esto. Entonces creo que la colaboración y el lazo que hacemos ahora con BorderLens es muy importante justamente por eso, ¿no? Porque estamos hasta cierto punto en una área donde creo que podemos como buscar qué es las cosas en las que coincidimos y en las que somos diferentes y en las que podemos hacer una conexión.
She's one of the most valuable things about this experience is to be sitting here with Vicky and have the support of BorderLens, because the idea is to connect also with women in the border between Mexico and United States, north of Mexico, south of United States, because we cannot put another division among the division. Because especially for the women in the border, it's like our natural flow to come back and forward. You know, we work here or we will have family there, we travel together. So it's very important to recognize those points as a women photographers, the point of being binational, or to find where we can have or common areas, the things that make us different, but most important, where we can make a collaboration. The idea of being here with you guys is very important because it gives me an idea of where our collaboration can take us, because to the end of the story, it's about not putting another wall over the wall and another wall over the wall. It's about merge together in our art and in our work.
Creo que hay mucho que decir acerca del trabajo de las mujeres, porque creo que no solamente las mujeres están, cuando hablamos del norte, solemos pensar a lo mejor lo que siempre decimos, ¿no? La violencia, el narcotráfico, los feminicidios, la migración, pero también hay que reconocer que hay mucho trabajo que pudiera no clasificarte solo como del norte, ¿no? Sino que son temas que atraviesan a mujeres de México, del sur, de muchos otros lugares, y que no precisamente al verlas dices es un trabajo de una mujer norteña, ¿no? O sea, cuando vemos los trabajos de las mujeres que están haciendo autorretrato o otros temas, ¿no? Entonces es bueno también voltear a ver eso.
And it's also important to recognize those points of or teams because when we think about our borderland, south of the United States, north of Mexico, we always think about immigration, feminicide, violence, narcotráfico, and that is also those other themes that could be common ground, that they don't have to be all cut by the same line, you know, like for example in her work we see these thematics that can be also part of our life in the border, so we don't have to be that you know, try to put everything like in boxes, like violence, narcotráfico, feminism is from the north and this is from the south. No, it's to convert and find all those points that we can work together.
Yeah, it was my goal actually not to make this a border, you know, exhibition. I've done exhibition that about separation of the border, and in fact, Nahaden was in that exhibition, and I didn't want to turn this into that. I wanted to show the collaboration and how the border, to me, is obviously a physical border, which I would detest, but I just wanted that to disappear for art's sake and make this that collaboration. But I do want you to talk about your artwork too, that I've got back
Dice
here
que
on
no
the
era su
board.
intención precisamente hacer esta exhibición acerca de la frontera y de la división, que hay otros trabajos, incluso el señor Najaro fue parte de uno de ellos, y que sí, que le alegra que haya esos puntos en común porque no era su intención, sino que esto fuera algo más, ¿no? Tumbar. Evidentemente existe una frontera que a él no le gusta, pero que obviamente es física y que se trataba de no hablar de eso precisamente, y que si por favor pudieras abundar sobre la fotografía.
Sí, bueno, esto es parte de un proyecto documental en el que he trabajado 3 años. Bueno, por la pandemia pues lo suspendí y ahora estoy aquí, no pude volver. Es un trabajo que estoy haciendo en San Agustín Etla, en Oaxaca. Es acerca de una festividad justamente del Día de Muertos. Esto es en un pequeño lugar que está a 30, 40 minutos en taxi de la ciudad de Oaxaca.
En taxi.
Sí, es que solo es en taxi.
This is a project. ¿No tiene nombre?
La Muerteada. Muerteada.
I like it. La Muerteada. The name of this project is La Muerteada. La Muerteada, which is a documentary project that she started 3 years ago. Of course, you know, the pandemic has been an issue for everybody's life. And these photographs have been taken in a little town that is 30 minutes from Oaxaca downtown in taxi. In taxi. And of course, there's some project about the Day of the Dead. That's what it calls La Muerteada.
En esta festividad, todo el pueblo, el Día de Muertos, está festejando, absolutamente todos. Se divide, bueno, para empezar, es una festividad que nace viene de España, digamos así. En este lugar hay unas fábricas textiles y los dueños españoles fueron los que empezaron esta festividad. San Agustín Etla.
Etla?
Etla.
The name of the town is San Agustín Etla, and the festivity of the Day of the Dead start here because there was originally some textile factories there in the town, and the owners were from Spain, so they are the ones that actually originate the Day of the Dead celebration in the little town. And when you go to San Agustín Etla, the whole town is celebrating Day of the Dead. It's just like general.
Sí, solamente algunos, bueno, muchos se disfrazan para el Día de Muertos, festejar este día y traer a sus muertos a través de trajes que confeccionan durante todo el año y que son trajes muy costosos y que el pueblo trabaja muchísimo para costear esta festividad.
¿Ellos se pagan los trajes?
Ellos los cosen y los pagan y son carísimos y pesados.
In this town, you know, the people prepare for a year to sew their costumes, the clothes that they're going to use for the Day of the Dead celebration. They don't repair in expenses or time because it's like the most important celebration of that town that day. So they spend just a lot of money and a lot of time in these customs.
Es una celebración que empieza en la noche y termina hasta el siguiente día en la mañana.
The celebration starts November the 1st.
Del primer,
November the 1st in the morning and it finished November the 2nd night. So
toda
right
la
now,
noche ellos bailan.
this dance all night long.
Solamente los que usan traje pueden bailar y cada traje tiene un significado, o sea, cada traje representa un personaje.
It's a dance all night long that goes all night long, but this dance is for the people that has those costumes, like the one you see in the photographer, and each of these costumes has a representation. That means it's like a theatrical thing, so it's a character.
También creo que es muy importante mencionar que esa tradición ha cambiado muchísimo en el sentido de que se ha agregado a los trajes cosas que no son originales bueno, que no es original el traje, ¿no? Que ha cambiado porque muchos de las personas que viven en ese pueblo han migrado a Estados Unidos y regresan y a veces agregan cosas diferentes a sus trajes.
She has noted or has observed that this tradition has changed a lot in the last years because a lot of the men in this town, they come to United States to work temporarily, or they just immigrate to United States to work. So when they return to town to celebrate the Day of the Dead, they bring another elements. So you can see how the festivity has also changed during the years due to the impact of the immigration.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I focused your work around this was because of the All Souls Day, which is today, and I wanted to bring that element of celebration into this exhibition. I thought it was very important to have the fiesta type of things that go on in Mexico, because I think that's such a big part of the culture and society that so many tourists, anyway, go just to see and participate in, but don't always see the reality about what is going on behind the making of the costumes and all of that you just mentioned.
Una de las razones por las que le eligió esta fotografía de tu colección es porque quería, como hoy es Día de los Muertos, traer esa parte que tú has investigado a la exhibición, porque es una festividad que ya atrae turismo a México, ¿no? Y todo el mundo quiere celebrar y saber, pero en realidad no conocen como tú y las raíces y el significado tan profundo que tiene el Día de los Muertos en México.
Sí, de hecho para mí me llamó mucho la atención y me atrapó porque pues en el norte el Día de Muertos pues es más semejante a Halloween, a todo esto. Entonces desde niña siempre ha sido algo que llamaba la atención, y dentro de mi trabajo fotográfico, que no es el periodístico, casi siempre busco hacer registro de cosas que tienen que ver con el Día de Muertos, con la Santa Muerte, cosas así. Entonces, por eso
Since it's a big difference in the way the Mexicans celebrate Day of the Dead, is in the north. Day of the Dead has not the same weight that it has like in the south of Mexico. Day of the Dead in the north of Mexico has more elements of the Halloween. And so that's why, since she was a girl, remember she's from Chihuahua, from the north, this celebration of Day of the Dead takes her attention very powerful, and she always travels to these little towns to make the documents of Day of the Dead, because it's something that she feels drawn to.
Thank you. I have one more image, I think, here that I was fascinated with, because when I was putting this exhibition together, I wanted to show sort of the construct and conversation of the border, the workers, the celebration, and then unfortunately we didn't have the other artists here that could talk about the many deaths of women in along the border around El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. But I wanted to make that aspect, and then the portraits of the people I thought were very important to show, whether it was in dress or in actual portraits of the individuals. I want to thank you for letting us sort of like bring together all of this work, because I don't think it's often shown, and as we talked about earlier, that this is an important issue in our culture, I think. So, thank you.
Les quiero agradecer mucho que hayan estado aquí y que estén hablando de estos temas y que sobre todo su participación en tener estos temas que son importantes y que son parte de la cultura y desgraciadamente no solamente hablar, sino también los temas de lo que las mujeres padecen, sufren y mueren en estos trabajos migratorios, ¿no? Y les agradecen muchísimo su participación.
Gracias, muchas gracias.
I know we've gone probably over our time limit here, but I was going to open it up for a couple questions from the audience, if there are any, and then we'll, the gallery will still be open. You're welcome to go over and look at the work for closer examination since you've heard and seen their conversation about this. Are there any questions? Yes, Catherine. Okay.
Raise your hand. Oh, here you go. Thank you so much for coming. This is wonderful. And I think it's so much about sharing among the people as we become global. And so what I wanted to say is, do you know that we have an All Souls procession going on starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is a long procession. If you have any flexibility, it's very profound.
Ay, claro que sí.
She
Nos
said,
encantaría.
of course, we would love to be there.
Well-
Sonia es experta en fotografía calle. Fotografía calle es algo que a mí me gusta mucho hacer también, entonces creo que nos encantaría.
Sonia is an expert in photographs, you know, taking the moments in the street, and she also loves to do photographs and
Wonderful.
things that happen, so she will be more than happy to assist to the
Beautiful.
procesión del Día de los Muertos
Thank
en
you.
Tucson.
You can go to allsoulsprocession.org to get all the information. It's been going on for over 3 decades. And I think the sharing of ideas is so rich. I find it interesting that the men who come to the United States to work go back to their home country and they show a change and integration of both cultures. Sounds like.
All right. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Hi, this is for Vicky. I was just wondering how you manipulate your photos on your iPhone.
I'm happy to give away my secrets because anybody can figure, it's not such a big deal, but I also refuse to pay money and to learn any of these programs. So all I use is Snapseed, which is a free app, and then the filters on Instagram. But it's been years of playing with those things so that I can really manipulate and push it to the place that I want it to go.
Thank you.
Well, can I say in Spanish or English? Does it matter? Well, pues antes que nada quiero agradecerles al venir hasta acá a Tucson. Siento que el proyecto que tienen en mente con las mujeres y teniendo en cuenta cómo es la situación en México, es una muy buena manera de to put light on it y ponerlo en un énfasis en general, tanto en Estados Unidos como en México. Y algún consejo para algún upcoming artist, algún artista que apenas va empezando en la fotografía, cualquiera de las dos.
He wants
Pues-
to say thank you for have such an interesting perspective, and he wants an advice for an emerging artist. There was.
Pues yo creo, primero, pues que crea en sí mismo, porque eso es algo difícil a veces sobre todo para las mujeres fotógrafas, a veces como creer en ti mismo, primero eso, y ver mucha fotografía, o sea, de diferentes autores, autoras, siempre ver el trabajo que están haciendo otros fotógrafos, pero nunca quitar el dedo del renglón de la idea que ellos tienen.
First of all, have a high confidence in your work, always trust your work, and second, basically studying a lot, see a lot of photographs, see what is new, and being always there, seeing what is new, but especially never give up.
Y bueno, para mí fue importante observar a mi alrededor. A veces pensamos que como fotógrafas tenemos que trasladarnos hasta otro país, otro continente para hablar de algo interesante. Y creo que lo importante es voltear a nuestro alrededor, a partir incluso de la familia. Entonces, tus calles, tu alrededor, las situaciones que te rodean y hablar de eso, creo que es la mejor manera, porque también a veces si le logras hacer un retrato a tu mamá, o sea, a veces es muy difícil. Entonces, creo que empezar por nuestro contexto y luego ir avanzando, ¿no? A partir de los intereses que cada una tenga.
I think it's important to look what is around you. Sometimes we had the impression that to do something interesting, we had like travel thousands of miles or go to another country to catch an interesting image. And I think it's very important to look what is around you, your daily life, your family, your streets, your city. Sometimes even if you take your bases, if you take one, of course your bases, I'm sorry, I didn't catch you. Yes, your bases, your kitchen utensils. And she said sometimes if you take one photo, a real photograph, your mother, for example, could be a great image. So for me, she says it was very important to just be aware of what is around me.
Well, thank everyone for being here, and
They want to say something. They want to invite you guys to some place.
Es solo para invitarlos a que nos apoyen también siguiendo las cuentas de Instagram en las páginas de estos proyectos y que busquen y vean los proyectos que hay ahí y sigan también el trabajo de las mujeres fotógrafas y hablen también con ellas, es bueno también.
We would like to invite you to follow our Instagram account so you can see the other women work and follow us and have conversation with us, and that's the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.